afternoon, Cass. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Uh,
Nice to see you
Tell me
too.
where you're at with your pregnancy.
So currently just got home from an appointment earlier today, 37 weeks. Um, he's doing good. I'm doing good. We're kind of just playing the waiting game now. But yeah, everything's good. Just kind of wrapping up my last few weeks here, possibly. Yeah.
Let's get into, I know you've been jotting down questions for me. So let's get
Yes.
into them. Start with what's on your mind at 37 weeks. That's what I want to know.
So, surprisingly enough, not as worried about birth, but one thing that I've been thinking about pretty extensively is feeding because I feel like I just want to make sure I have all my ducks in a row because, I mean, just depending on how I choose to feed, how it works out best, what I would like to do, I need to have a lot of different supplies. I need to have a lot of different boundaries, mindsets, a lot of goes into that. So I guess like my first thing is I just kind of wrote a statement because I got this from your freebie that I got, the first trimester checklist, just being about like have your statements and like be very clear on what your intentions are for how you'd like to feed. So I wrote that I would like to be able to offer a pumped bottle to my baby so that my dad, grandparents, godparents can help feed and support. Not that I am very lucky to work from home and will be home with my baby 99% of the time. But on the event that I want to go do something for just myself in my fourth trimester, like go get my nails done, go to Target, and just walk around. I want to be, make sure that my baby can eat. So, how would you go about like how and when to introduce that bottle? I've seen and tried to do my research, but a lot of conflicting information on if you offer it too early, there'll be confusion. But if I offer it too late, there might not be any acceptance.
Tricky thing to find the sweet spot. The big thing I want to tell you is don't worry about if you don't do it exactly right because anything can be changed and fixed. I remember being so worried that if I did one thing that would change everything going forward, and so I didn't want to do that one thing, or if I did that one thing I was like, okay, now I can never go back, but that's just not the case. So you can always try something. It's not working, a couple weeks later, drop it, pick it up again later. As the giving model, I do this a lot with my clients. A lot of times I'm asked to come in at that moment when they're like, okay, I'm going back to work. It's, 3 months in. He's never had a bottle. Can't get him to take a bottle. I'm freaking out because I got to leave and I'm not going to be there and he's not going to eat, and that's a big, scary moment for moms. So the first thing I say is give a bottle for at least 2 weeks because you don't want to be pumping for 2 weeks. You don't want to be just you and the baby establishing the milk supply and both of you learning how to do it. Baby really does have to learn. It's natural, but it takes practice. So 2 weeks, nothing but breastfeeding. If you want to give a try, I always say, first of all, never have the mom introduce the bottle. It's never going to work. And in fact, mom shouldn't even be in the room or even in the house if possible, because that baby knows that you're there and they're going to not want nothing to do with anything that's not mom's breast. So it might be hard. You might want to be on video watching what's going on. I've actually had a mom who was like watching from the other room on video. I'd introduce the bottle or someone else. And so that's one thing. Just be like once a day. And they don't even have to really get much out of it. It doesn't have to be a full feed by any means, maybe it'll be an ounce. It just like breastfeeding takes learning, it's going to take some learning on both the baby's end and dad's end or whoever's giving the bottle. Because it doesn't come naturally. I had a dad I worked with, and if I find the video, I'll put it in this recording. But I had a dad who was trying to give the baby the bottle for the first time. This is the one where the mom was watching from downstairs on the camera. And he sat like, normally, what would you think? You sit down, you hold the baby, you put the bottle in his mouth, right? And I was like, okay, don't do any of that. Stand up, holding the baby, kind of bouncing him, you kind of engage him, look at him, talk to him, right a little bit. I'm like doing it over here in mine, but that's what I was showing him. And slip that bottle in his mouth and walk around talking, bouncing, and you'll see on the video of me doing this and showing him, because action, and like you have to have him engaged. This was, though, I have to say, this is the personality of this little baby boy. His name was Graham. This was his personality and what he needed. A lot of times, it's hard to give you like flat answers without knowing your baby. Like, you're going to have little Mr. Atticus is going to be his own person, right? He might be very highly sensitive, or he might be totally chill and just be like, yeah, do whatever you want, I don't care. So we got to meet him first and get to know him. So that's one thing. But those tips, don't be home. And really, I know I hate to say it, but stress out about it. Like, the first time you go for, like, let's say 3 hours, and there's going to be a feed in there. Reason that person who's giving him the bottle can't get him to take it, don't stress. He's not going to starve in 3 hours. You'll come back, you'll feed him, it'll be okay. But try again the next day. Be consistent with it. Once you start, once a day, whatever time it is, it doesn't matter if it's at the exact time or anything, or the exact feed schedule, but try it once a day. And like I said, even if it's 1 ounce, that's okay. Just get it in that little mouth once a day so that he gets used to it. And if he gets used to it with, obviously another person, if it's the same person, that's great. Be a routine. They learn routines so quickly. So it's nothing too much to worry about. If he's on a pacifier, that's another great way that you can use as a trick. You've got the pacifier in his mouth, and you kind of slip that out and pop the bottle in. Super easy.
Okay. Because I was going to say, one of my follow-up questions kind of regarding that is like, I know that, oh, I don't know this, but like I've read that like pacifiers, are they going to affect breastfeeding? Can they? 'Cause I know I've been doing a lot of research on the shapes and like trying to get everything to be as close to breast as possible, because I know that is one thing. At least I know for my hospital, I called and asked because I was like, I got so scared. I don't know what it was last night. I was like, I gotta pack my hospital bag, which I left until 37 weeks exactly. But I was like, I don't have any pacifiers that are sterilized yet. So I called and I was like, do you guys have pacifiers? They're like, yup, this is the one we provide. So I even know what brand it is. But like, what, like, because I know that's something that I personally think that I will introduce early, just because I read about the reduced risk of SIDS using pacifiers. So that was like enough for me to be like, okay, cool, we're going to be a pacifier family. That's that. So I want to introduce that early. But then I was worried, like, would that affect breastfeeding? But it's actually comforting to hear that it might kind of help aid. And like, if he's good at that, then transition to implementing a bottle into his feeding schedule might be more helpful than harmful, which my brain immediately was like, oh my god, it's gonna be different, he's gonna hate it, it's gonna be a whole thing.
Yes, whatever we think is going to happen is probably going to be different than what actually happens. I'll just tell you that right now. Did the hospital tell you what? Do they use the Philips Avent? A lot of them use them.
Yeah, the little Advent Soothies, the green ones that are, because I also heard that the Philips Advent bottles, the natural response Advent bottles, that they're really good because they're really close to breast shape for the nipple. So I got one of them because I was like, I don't want bottle feeding to be like the whole thing. And I don't want it to be, I'd prefer to just breastfeed as much as possible, but have the option, if need be, to do a bottle.
Right. Thinking. Very good thinking.
I try.
Yeah, they run into the Philips Avent or come from the hospital, and I really like those because you can stick your finger right in the nipple.
Yeah.
That's really super convenient if you're like lying down and you have your in the pacifier, and the pacifier's in the baby's mouth, so you feel that he's sucking and he's getting that little bit of that fleshiness that is your finger in there. That's really good. It's easy to use. I like that better than like having a little handle on the back of it. Dark ones, although I don't know the safety of those, but those are kind of nice too.
I didn't even know that was an option,
Yeah.
but it feels like that is a very appropriate innovation for 2 in the morning, you're about to drop the pacifier in your bed and
Yeah.
you want to know where that's at.
As far as the pacifier, yes, I love the pacifier as a tool. It's just important to use it as a tool and not as a substitute. So I'm introducing it early on, just not, you know, all the time. Like if not like I wouldn't want you to have it always in the baby's mouth if like he's either on the breast or he has a passy. That's too much. So the passy, just think of it as a tool. So you're breastfeeding first and foremost. Might be every hour, every half hour and a half, every 2 hours, whatever. Whenever he wants it, whenever he's makes a peep. There's no such thing as too much breast. Just give it to him, and he'll, depending on whether he's hungry or he just needs soothing. If he's hungry, he's going to suck harder and he's going to get that milk. If he just needs it for soothing, then he'll be sucking a little bit like less intensely, and he'll get the soothing out of it. Then when you need a break because you're going to be sore in the beginning a little bit, like, okay, it's only been an hour, maybe, try the pacifier for a few minutes. Like the pacifier, they really need a lot of extra, what we call non-nutritive sucking in the first few months, a good 3 months. So it's sometimes really tough for mom to do that all the time, every time. Like I exclusively breastfed, but I still needed a break sometimes, So there was still those like few times where I was like, yeah, I really wish I had a pacifier right now. I chose them myself, but now, and I'm like, yeah, that would be a handy tool to have. Concern about confusion or the nipple preference unless you're just using it too much. So just keep it
Okay.
as a tool when needed. That leads also into like the cluster feeding, because a lot of moms think, okay, all of a sudden, like they want to eat all of a sudden, all the time, like what's going on? And then they want to use the pacifier because they think, well, they can't possibly need to eat. So that's where I want to be really careful overusing the pacifier. Offer the breast first, because sometimes, and this isn't like a growth spurt where it happens for a couple days. This is like, there could be a certain time of day, every day, when your baby wants to cluster feed. So he might feed like, in your mind, it'll feel like nonstop for 3 hours, but it's not really. But that's very, very common. So it might be between, let's say, 8 o'clock and 11 o'clock at night, where he's been on the breast for 20 minutes, and then you're burping him, and then he still wants more. So you put him on the other breast. He's on there for 20 minutes. You're like, okay, I think we're done. Like you've definitely had enough. And then 10 minutes of rest, and he wants to go back on the breast. That's totally normal. Their needs are not linear. They're not like, okay, I ate, I'm satisfied, I rest, I eat, I'm satisfied. Like that's just not how it is. Sometimes they need to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, and then they'll be satisfied enough to sleep for an hour or two. Fret about the cluster feeding, but always offer that breast first until and unless you need that break, and you need like, okay, we're going to do pacifier now for a little bit and see if that works. And then that might work. You might say, oh, that can fall asleep, so he's good for a little while. Say about the pacifier and the cluster feeding. And then there's also the situation of the growth spurts. So those come up at any given time. I mean, there's sort of ideas of, well, usually there's a growth spurt at 10 days and there's a growth spurt here and there. And yes, but I like to try and just not have you like looking at the calendar and like, is it about the time of a growth spurt? Like, don't, just feel it out. Just let it happen. You'll know, because that is something where they're going to be cluster feeding every feed around the clock for like 48 hours. Okay. Just be like, you'll know, you'll know what's happening. But I just want to caution you, like, this is the mistake I see moms make. Baby starts cluster feeding and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't satisfy him. It's not feeding enough. He wants to keep feeding every hour and a half, again and again and again. I'm making enough milk. I want you to think that, because it's not true. What's happening is he is ramping up his demand so that the more he is on the breast, He's giving your body the signal that he needs more milk. So it takes a few times. It's going to take 3 or 4 breastfeeding sessions for your body to start responding like, oh, okay, making more now. All right, let me catch up. And then you're going to be making more, and then you'll have it ready for him. So, yeah, some of those feedings, you won't have a lot of milk ready for him. Have milk in your breasts. Like, there's no such thing as an empty breast when you're lactating. You always have some milk there, but it will start to ramp up and produce faster as he needs it. And then he'll still be nursing every couple hours and getting a lot for about 48 hours. And then you're going to see it just drop, and he's going to sleep like a lot and not be
Okay.
hungry. And the reason for that is because once they finish that feeding frenzy of 24 to 48 hours, then they sleep a lot because that's when they grow. So they're storing up these calories while they're getting these cluster feeds. They're storing them up, and then they sleep. And when they sleep, they're growing. And it is a miracle to watch because you will literally come back to that bassinet after 3 hours and be like, I swear to God, he just grew. You can just see it. It's amazing.
He's got half an inch on him.
Yeah, sure. The little face plumping up and the little fat rolls and all that. It's lovely.
So I'm trying to think because I literally like so much comes off of each question, and then I'm thinking of more questions. So actually, one thing that is not on my list, but I just thought of when we were talking about it with the milk production, because I know that because I knew the cluster feeding was helping your body, like obviously for growth for him, but also to help my body establish like how much do we need to be producing. Um, and that comes into something that literally my provider told me this morning. I was like, okay, and I love my providers, but I figured I'd also ask you just to get a little bit more info because the appointments are so short. I wait longer in the waiting room than I am in the room with the provider. They told me I'm okay to start harvesting colostrum now if I want to. Is that something you recommend doing? Is that something that I guess since because I know he doesn't need a ton the first couple of days because the colostrum is so nutrient packed that it seems like it's only a little bit, but it's what he needs. So is it going to ramp up my production too quickly to start harvesting now, or is it something you recommend to have a little stash of it? Because I know it is referred to as the liquid gold, it is what has a lot of antibodies and things that baby needs right off the bat. So how do you recommend that whole situation to your clients?
Yes, this is really important. The colostrum is like a major issue, and it comes and goes so quickly that a lot of opportunity gets lost. So I love that we're talking about colostrum now at 37 weeks. That's fantastic. So first of all, if you hand express and you get colostrum now while you're still pregnant, you're not going to it's not going to make you start overproducing or worry about having too much milk. That's not going to happen because it happens when A, the baby's nursing a lot, and B, right after you give birth, your body just produces these crazy lactating hormones that just push out so much milk, not even stimulating yet, right? So the body just creates it just in case, here we go, here's a good start for you, until the baby's rhythm starts kicking in. And it's a good couple of weeks before the milk production sort of regulates. Now, the colostrum, it's a great idea to keep it and freeze it in even in the tiniest little, if you have those teeny tiny ice cube trays.
That's actually what I did. So I went out this morning. I got a hand pump. I haven't looked into hand expressing at all because I've been lactating for quite a while, actually. I started lactating between 17 and 20 weeks. So my midwife suggested collecting in a medicine cup because I don't know what it's technically referred to. I think it's called a letdown. I can feel when I'm going to start leaking. So I just put a medicine cup there and try to collect as much as I can. I got a teeny tiny ice cube tray, and I've just been pouring whatever I get. It's usually one singular ice cube at a time and putting it in Ziploc baggies with the date on it in my freezer, just so I know. But now that she was like, oh, you're good to go, I have a hand pump, which I tried to use this morning after my appointment. And I did get some, but I just felt like I lost so much in the hand pump that I was like, I don't want to use this to do it because I feel like I'm losing more than I'm collecting. But yeah, I did go with the teeny tiny ice cube tray because I was like, where do I get these tiny 1 milliliter syringes that everyone's getting? And then I looked on Amazon and it's like $15 for a box of like 200. I'm like, I don't need 200.
No, no,
I
you
just need
can
a
use
little.
the little, it's a medicine syringe, and you can just, you don't need, you just need one. You just keep washing it. It comes apart. So
Yeah,
you
I
can,
got one with my baby Tylenol. So I was like, oh,
yeah,
I'll just
yeah,
use the ice cube tray and then just use that one as needed.
yeah. So you can pull it out of the medicine cup and squeeze it into the ice cube tray with that. Is that what you
Okay.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the hospital, that's also great to do. Sometimes if you have more than enough, or if you're latching in the hospital, those first few days, it's just nice to have that like extra, where you can hand express and then you can feed the baby. Sometimes it happens. You need to feed the baby with the syringe because whatever, maybe you got broken skin or you're sore or whatever, and you just like need just a few more minutes. For you is to buy those silverettes.
Yes.
They're
I
the
have those
silver
in my
cups.
Amazon cart. They've
Yeah,
been there.
because they help heal your skin so much faster, and you only have an hour and a half in between feeds. So you want to put something on that's going to really help you, heal and protect that skin. Definitely the colostrum, save it, and because you're going to want it for. Here's the thing, like I said, it comes and goes so quickly. It's maybe 3-4 days after you give birth. That's going to
Oh, okay. Wow, that's
disappear,
quick.
and then your transitional milk will come in, and that's like a thinner milk, and then your full milk will come in. So you're going to want to use it later when they're sick. You give them a little extra. It's almost like a little extra dose of immunization, like an antibody. Like
Yeah.
it just pumps up their immunization so much. You can put it, if they have skin rashes, dry skin, you can put it on that. You can put it in their nose for when their nose is dry or congested. It actually helps the inflammation in their nose. Breast milk
Wow.
will do that too, but a colostrum is just that much more strong. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but definitely, like if he were sick for a little bit, I would be like giving him a few pops of that colostrum. It's like amazing. Yeah, it's wonderful. So yeah, I would say I would keep as much of it as you can.
Okay, because yeah, they told me they're like, you're good to start today because now I'm considered full term and he can come at any time. So I'm like, all right. Like, is there like, would you recommend like how many times a day? Like, is it because obviously also the other thing is I know they're careful about like, oh, don't start yet because if you do, it can put you in labor. So I want to make sure I'm not overdoing it, but I want to make sure I'm doing it an appropriate amount to store up as much as I can. 'Cause I actually didn't know it was only 3 to 4 days after baby is born. Then I thought it was like maybe a week or two. But so like now I'm like, okay, I'm taking advantage of as much as I can do before he's here. And that the first
Yeah.
couple days he'll be needing it.
Well, how much would you say you're collecting now, just without trying?
Without trying, I can probably do like 1 or 2 little ice cubes a day just from whatever I get from the medicine cup. This morning, when I tried the hand pump, I got like 2 or 3 ice cubes.
Mhm.
But again, because I have one of I forget what it's called, the Medela Harmony, like the little manual pump that you just put together yourself and you can do that. I feel like I probably had enough to get like 4 or 5 ice cubes out of it. But because it's just like so many intricate little pieces that you're taking apart, I just felt like it got stuck. So I'm going to try to
Yeah.
hand express from here on out so I'm not losing as much in the cleaning and bottling process.
Yeah, I would hand express because you want to teach yourself to do that, because that's going to come in handy later. So the first few weeks that you're breastfeeding, you're going to try not to pump at all at the
Okay.
first 2 weeks. Need to get some of that milk out. Like if it's building up, you're getting uncomfortable and gorged, and the baby can't get it all out, or if it's coming too fast for the baby, then baby might be having trouble latching because it's just too fast and it's kind of swallowing and gulping and all of that, and it's just causing trouble. So you might want to express some first before you put him on. Express some so that it's not like coming at him so fast.
Yeah.
You want to be used to being able to hand express, and why not save
Okay.
that? Always. I mean, you might hand express maybe half an ounce. That's lovely. That's great. Keep it
Okay. Because
every little
yeah,
bit.
I would say like it's so tricky because like I know I'm not supposed to like fully pump, But then that's the other thing. Like that's one of those just missing education pieces. Like I knew hand expressing is an option, but no one tells you how to hand express.
Mhm.
My doctor is just like, get it out. I'm like, and like, I know they mean well, but so in my head I was like, oh, one of those little manual pumps, that's like the step down from like an actual breast pump. But, let's take it a step back even further and hand express instead of using a manual pump because I'm not quite at the needage for
Right.
a manual pump just yet.
Yeah, and the other thing you can do is put the pump on one side while you're nursing on the other side, and then because you're going to be leaking on both sides, so then you're
I got a
collecting.
milk collector. Is
Yeah,
that a different thing?
yeah,
Okay, because I have
it
like
is
the
because it's just
manual
kind of
pump.
like a suction cup type of thing, right?
Yeah, it's
Like
like
a hot
a
dog.
silicone circle that you just kind of like pop on and then you just
Oh, it's
kind of sit
amazing.
there.
It just pops on, and then it just collects whatever leaks, and like, why not, right? Because it's coming out anyway. Why put it
It's
in?
coming out anyway.
Yeah, so that helps collect. Um,
Okay.
but again, there's another thing where, just like we talked about before, that I can only give you so much to go on
Yeah.
until we meet the little guy and see what's going on with him and what's going on with you. Some of my moms are overproducers, some of them are a little bit on the slower producing side. And so we have to adjust based on that. So that's why you want me there with you in real time. And you just give me a call and say, this is what's going on. We know you and how you things and your whole little scene over there, even though we're not in the same city. Tell and help you out a little bit more personalized and customized to you and your baby and your husband and your dogs, everybody, because everyone's involved.
The whole family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, because what I figured is I'll start today just doing it once a day, like trying to just hand express or express once a day, see how much I can get and kind of go from there and try to build up that little stash. Because as soon as they told me you're good to go, I'm like, let's go. I wanna make sure I had it because a lot of people have really told me the benefits of like when your baby is sick, it is difference can be astronomical to give them half, 1 milliliter of colostrum and how much that can help them.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. I even moms who are like not going to breastfeed at all or whatever, I always am like, just for those few days, just grab a little bit of that and really call it liquid gold. Boy, they really mean it. It's really magical. I
Oh
hear that you're
yeah.
going to give that a shot, and we'll be
Oh,
collecting that. It's wonderful. Like, why don't we stop here for a bit and kind of regroup in a few minutes? Any more questions that you have? Okay, let's
all
do
right.
that. All
Sounds
right.
good.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss my weekly check-ins with first-time mom, Kess. I'm going to follow her through her 4th trimester when she brings her baby home, and we'll have lots to talk about. See you there.